The hour. Before you leave the house, here's what's happening for you today. Closing arguments expected in the hate crime trial of accused Charleston shooter Dylan Roof. He is accused with killing 9 members of a black church in South Carolina.
And a brand new report being released today blasting the IRS on wasteful spending. The Senate Finance Committee finds taxpayers paid over $1 million for luxury apartments and private car services.
And President-elect Donald Trump's thank you tour heads to Hershey, Pennsylvania. VP-elect Mike Pence set to join Mr. Trump at the rally.
Now time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. First, though, the good. A Cary school bus driver buys hats and gloves for his young passengers after seeing a boy crying from the cold. John Luciford spotting the 6-year-old as he boarded his bus in Washington State. The Army veteran placing his own work gloves on the boy's hands before buying 10 sets of hats and gloves for other people. I love that.
And the bad, road crews did not stop to check their spelling, apparently, accidentally sprawling STPO across the California roadway. People living there say that it's funny, but they want the city to come back and fix it.
And finally, the ugly. A Tennessee mom attacked in a grocery store for holding up the line with coupons. This video showing a man lunge toward the woman at a checkout counter in Memphis. She claims she was mad because she was taking too long, but the video shows her throwing a drink on him before the fight.
It's that time of year. People are getting a little antsy out there shopping around. So
we'll need to be a good spirit.
Just the season. Yep.
All right. Well,
thank you for joining us.
Fox and Friends starts right now. Have a good day.
Bye.
That's America, ladies and gentlemen.
We live in a great country. That's a beautiful shot of 6th Avenue, which heads right up into Central Park. You saw the American flag there. And it is Thursday, which means you only have one more alarm clock.
Oh, wait a minute. You're leaving something out. Today is our Christmas party. We're having a Christmas party today, a holiday party for some at a nearby bowling alley.
That's right.
As we
I was
have done
hoping
for
for
many
karaoke,
years.
but we're doing bowling instead.
You can do bowling.
Did you bring?
You can sing along.
All right, I'll sing while you bowl. Now, because I can't do either one. What about your jersey? Did you bring that? He has, the bowling jersey
shirt
that has Steve,
Absolutely.
his name written on it.
Brian has one too, somewhere.
Right. I put it in my own Hall of Fame. I have my own Hall of Fame, so I framed it, and I visit it every day.
All right.
Every day.
Every day.
So anyway, we're excited because it's Thursday. It's our Christmas party. Plus, we've got a great lineup. Kellyanne Conway, special advisor to President-elect Trump, is going to be joining us. Also, Senator Joe Manchin. There's a real struggle over whether or not he's going to remain a Democrat in the Senate. We're going to talk to him about that.
He always says, if I want to reach my constituents, he goes, I got to hop on Fox News. And he said, when he was really disenchanted with his party. So you know what happened? The White House stopped talking to him. So for 8 years, there was no contact. There's a president-elect who called him right away.
All right, we also have Rob O'Neill, who's going to be joining us this morning, and the star of the show right there, Patton. This could be Donald Trump's dog, the future first dog, right there in our green room.
Yeah, I think it's Barron's pick. If Barron has his way,
I don't blame him.
there will be a golden doodle in the White House.
Look at his personality.
That woman lives near Donald Trump down by Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, and she has contacted Donald, sent him a picture. He showed it to Barron. Barron loved the dog. What's going to happen next? Because every White House family always has a dog. We'll talk to them coming up very shortly.
All right. The president-elect continuing his thank you tour today after sitting down with top tech bosses.
That's right. Silicon Valley trying to hit the reset button with Mr. Trump, but missing at the table, Twitter. Where was @Jack?
Yeah, and where are the smiles? Peter Doocy is live in Washington, D.C. with the details. Hey, Peter.
Hey, guys. Up on the 25th floor of Trump Tower in New York yesterday, the president-elect was trying to figure out ways for tech companies to make more money here in the States. And even though the president-elect has called out some of the companies that these CEOs run in the last few months, like Apple, who he thinks should have helped the FBI unlock the San Bernardino terrorist's iPhone, or Amazon, who he says has an antitrust problem, he was very complimentary.
There's nobody like you in the world. There's nobody like the people in this room. And anything we can do to help this go along, and we're going to be there for you. And you'll call my people, you'll call me. It doesn't make any difference. We have no formal chain of command around here.
There is a lot of buzz about why Mr. Trump did not invite the company that helps him reach millions of people for free every day. That's Twitter. A month-old blog post from a member of Trump's digital team has surfaced where this person complains that the social media site banned a crooked Hillary emoji during a debate. But the Trump team later clarified they just don't think Twitter is big enough to sit at the table with Facebook and Tesla and others.
The conference table was only so big. Okay, there was a lot of companies, and if you go down the list of the top tech companies, I guarantee you'll find additional ones that weren't there. This was not an intentional slight, and it's frankly ridiculous that you're sitting around. There is only so many people that can actually sit around a conference table.
And reports are that meetings like that one are going to keep happening down here in D.C., organized again by Mr. Trump's son-in-law and top advisor, Jared Kushner. Back to you in New York.
All right, Peter, thank you very much. You know what's interesting about Donald Trump? Usually after people are elected president of the United States, they surround themselves with people who help get them to the White House. Donald Trump was in that room. The only friendly faces were Mike Pence and his family, because everybody else around that table voted for Hillary Clinton and raised a lot of money for Hillary.
It's going to be interesting because they have a different view on immigration. We actually need more. We need more engineers. We need a lot of these exchange students to stay here after we educate them in places like Stanford and the Ivies and all these great colleges that we have. So I wonder if they were able to voice their opinion to have their voice heard when it comes to immigration.
Well, technology is so big now. You have to hear their voices. And, you know, it reminds me of Ronald Reagan. People compared Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump because he had so many friends on the other side of the aisle. And I feel like Donald Trump is trying to bring everyone in and trying to say, all right, I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your opinion, and I want to hear your opinion from all different walks of life that represent industries here in America, so that he can then take that assessment into the White House and have a better idea of what folks need.
That's right, because it's all about jobs, and he wants high-tech jobs here in this country. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. The guy who runs the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, sent a letter to the CIA, the FBI, and all the intel community and said, hey, been reading a lot in the paper about how Russia threw the election toward Donald Trump. So let's come on up to Capitol Hill and let's talk about it. Well, yesterday, all those intel community agencies said, you know what, we're busy. We can't come, which is really curious given the fact how much they have been leaking in some cases.
Now, think about this. They said they're not going to come and address the House Intelligence Committee, which I don't think has really ever happened before that I can remember. When you're requested, you should come. Number two, the excuse they gave. President Obama's asked for a review. We're focusing on that. Really?
Good.
So the House doesn't matter? The people's voice doesn't count? And they just want to know, last time that James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, spoke in mid-November, he said that he didn't know where these hacks came from. Why all of a sudden did momentum change over the weekend and we have a total new view of what happened with the election?
So you have folks that are in the intelligence community saying Russia was involved in this election. You have House members that are saying, if that's the case, the CIA, because FBI and the DNI are not on the same page. So you've got all these agencies that represent the intel community. They're not on the same page. The House members are saying, if this is true, if Russia did hack, we want to bring you guys in. We want to hear your evidence. But they're saying, we're not going to provide people. Does that lead you to believe because they don't have the facts? They don't have the information?
Here's the thing, Ainsley. If the CIA found something earth-shattering, they would have an obligation to come and present it to the American people. But they're not showing up. Josh Earnest, however, who is so very partisan there at the podium at the White House, he said clearly Donald Trump was involved. He's blaming Trump and the Russians and everybody else. Watch.
The Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent. It might be an indication that he was obviously aware and concluded, based on whatever facts or sources he had available to him, that Russia was involved. The Republican nominee chose a campaign chair that had extensive, lucrative, personal financial ties to the Kremlin. And it was obvious to those who were covering the race that the hack and leak strategy that had been operationalized was not being equally applied to the two parties.
I don't remember this ever happening when you had a press secretary for an outgoing administration going after the president-elect. And by the way, I asked him, he's been asked many times, What he's referring to is the fact that Donald Trump was asked at a press conference about that, about leaks or hacks with when it comes to Hillary Clinton. He says, I don't know if Russia's behind it, but I'll tell you what, if you are behind it, can we get the 30,000 emails that you illegally deleted from your files and never handed over? It was a sarcastic remark who the President of the United States and Josh Earnest both took as factual.
I agree with you. Josh Earnest is saying, if Donald Trump is calling for an investigation, that means he knows that Russia was involved. No, Donald Trump, in my opinion, is saying, if Russia was involved, we want to know. Let's get to the bottom of it. So let's have a briefing.
Well, you know, when you look at what he said he might know. There's a lot we don't know. And yet Josh Earnest, as many Democrats, is trying to discredit Donald Trump. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to muddy the waters before the electors vote on December the 19th. Peter King says, look, if somebody is leaking false information against the president-elect, there's got to be an investigation. Watch.
This violates all protocols, and it's almost as if people in the intelligence community are carrying out a disinformation campaign against the president-elect of the United States. It's absolutely disgraceful, and if they're not doing it, then it must be someone in the House or the Senate who's leaking false information, and there should be a full investigation of this.
Donald Trump's been very complimentary towards the current president after they never really met each other, but were ripping each other in the worst way possible personally for the past 5 years. I think this is truly going to jeopardize your relationships. It's going to cause some friction between the administrations and bring us right back into the sewer. The President of the United States pushing that. Josh Earnest is pushing that narrative. Totally irresponsible.
A lot of allegations without the facts. People just can't accept the election results.
See, I think Donald Trump's going to rise above the shabbiness. I think, look, the Democrats are grasping at straws. Donald Trump, though, from his 26th floor, I hope, just doesn't pay any attention to it. But once again, it's all about trying to create a mess before the electors vote. And there are all these stories about how these electors are going to flip and stuff like that.
Why are you laughing?
Do you have a fever?
What?
Has Donald Trump ever ducked from a fight? If he feels he's being called out immorally and wrongly.
I think he realizes he's now part of that special presidential club. I think he will have his surrogates do the attacking. I don't think he's going to do it on this. I could be wrong.
101 or 102?
It's pretty high.
You never know. I'm just excited about Mullen. All right. Meanwhile, we have some breaking news on this Thursday. A dangerous inmate is on the loose, and Heather has got the very latest on Manhunt.
Yeah, good morning. We're talking about Fayetteville, North Carolina, and so folks will be on the lookout there. A massive manhunt is intensifying in that area for an escaped inmate who's believed to be armed and, quote, very dangerous. Police in Fayetteville say that this man, Edward Moore Jr., was being treated at a hospital when he assaulted an officer, swiped that officer's taser, and then escaped through the front door. He then stole a car and drove off. That car was later found. But Moore, a convicted bank robber, is still on the run at this hour. So many military families in that community. This guy, better look out. Well, that Muslim teenager, remember her? She claimed that 3 drunk Trump supporters called her a terrorist and attacked her on a New York City subway. It turns out she lied about it. According to sources, the NYPD arrested her and has now charged her with filing a false police report. The 18-year-old woman described the made-up attack on Facebook, blaming President-elect Trump for promoting what she called Islamophobia. But when questioned by cops, she reportedly said she had been out drinking and made that story up to distract her angry father. And it is now legal to get high in the state of Massachusetts. As of midnight, people 21 and older are allowed to carry 1 ounce of pot with them. They're also allowed to grow up to 6 plants at home. But people still can't buy that drug legally yet. It'll be at least another year before the state changes its retail licenses. And D.C. now, she already has a seat at the table, and now reports are circulating that Ivanka Trump will be taking over the White House office traditionally reserved for the First Lady. The Trump campaign shooting down these reports, say no decisions have been made about Ivanka's involvement, at least not yet. This comes after the future First Lady, Melania Trump, announced that she and her son Barron would not move to the White House until the end of the school year. And those are your headlines. So we'll see what kind of role Ivanka has. Interesting, though.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, thank you.
President-elect Donald Trump predicting a bright future.
We're going to win so much. You're going to go to Paul Ryan. You're going to go, Mr. Speaker, please, please. We can't stand winning this much.
But do the American people see the same thing? The brand new dials just in.
And this is what hard work looks like. Meet the Chick-fil-A worker in a sling and a neck brace, still ringing up customers. There's an incredible story behind the picture, and find out how you can help coming up.
I got American faith.
President-elect Donald Trump continuing his thank you tour across the country. But how is his post-election message really resonating with you, the American? Here to break it all down, President and partner at Maslansky and Partners is Lee Carter. Hey, Lee.
Hey, great
Good
to be
see
back.
you. Yes, welcome back. You were here like every day during the election.
Yeah.
You had a little time off. Welcome
And we're
back.
back.
All right, he's on the Thank You America tour. Let's talk about some of the things that he said during the tour. The first one, he said, you got to hire American, you got to buy American. Listen to this and then watch the dials. Watch the independents in particular.
And we're going to put our people back to work in the process. It's time to help get Americans off of welfare and back into the labor market. Building this country with American hands and with American workers. My administration will follow two simple rules. Buy American and hire American, right? We're going to do it.
So, Lee, how'd it do?
You can see there, independents, Republicans gave this an A+, Democrats a C. Independents continue to track with Donald Trump's message on jobs, on the economy. People are so encouraged right now based on the actions, based on Carrier, even IBM announcing that they're going to add 25,000 jobs. It is a message that is resonating, and even Democrats are coming around.
He announced that Rex Tillerson is going to be Secretary of State this week. Listen to what he said about Rex, and then we're going to talk about it.
Today I announced my plans to nominate Rex Tillerson, right? The Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of ExxonMobil, to be the next Secretary of State. Rex is one of the greatest and most skilled global business leaders of our time. Made some of the greatest deals ever made in the oil industry or any industry. A great diplomat, a strong man, a tough man.
All right, Lee, what's the grade?
So you can see Republicans a B+, Independents a C, Democrats an F. People want more information about who he is and what he's going to do.
A line that he keeps saying that everyone loves, you're going to get tired of winning. Listen to this and watch the dials.
We're going to win a lot. We're going to win so much, you're going to go to Paul Ryan, you're going to go, Mr. Speaker, please, please. We can't stand winning this much. We can't take it. And he's going to come to see me and he's going to, Mr. President, the people in Wisconsin are tired of winning so much. You're winning with health care. We're winning on the border. We're winning with ISIS because we are going to get ISIS out.
Lee?
So you can see Republicans a B, Independents a C, Democrats a D.
I don't understand why Democrats wouldn't want to win, but all right.
A little bit too braggy for him.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Lee.
Great to be here.
One more day until the weekend. All right, next on the rundown, the president making a few last-minute power grabs, and it's good news for Planned Parenthood. Plus, the president-elect's pick for Secretary of State set to face an uphill confirmation battle. Our next guest knows a thing or two about oil executives because he ran Shell Oil. And he knows Tillerson well. What Jim Hofmeister has to say about Mr. Trump's pick coming up next. Hey, Jim, come in.
All right, we've got some quick Thursday morning headlines for you directly from President Obama's desk. First, a last-minute power grab. States forced to provide funding for the nation's #1 abortion provider, which is, of course, Planned Parenthood. The rule will go into effect just 2 days before Donald Trump's inauguration. And nothing says America like the bald eagle, but President Obama is okay with killing them. The Obama administration also passing a rule protecting wind companies from federal fines, even if thousands of bald eagles are killed by flying into the high-speed blades. All right, there you go. Some of the news. Now, here's Brian.
All right, President-elect Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State is fueling some criticism and some praise. Leaders on both sides of the aisle are a little doubtful about him, calling out Rex Tillerson's ties to Russia as a potential problem. But our next guest says ExxonMobil CEO is the perfect choice for chief diplomat. Former Shell Oil President John Hoffmeister joined us now. He knows Rex Tillerson personally and knows his world that he was in and is about to get in. First off, John, the guy you know, the Rex you know, tell us about him.
Well, he's a very experienced individual, been all over the world, worked in many different functions of ExxonMobil. And if you rise to the top of a company like ExxonMobil, you have competed against your peer group for decades. And he was ultimately selected to follow Lee Raymond. And as far as I can tell, he's done a very good job running one of the most complex, sophisticated, and technical companies in the world.
You also told me something I did not know. When you run a company, a worldwide power play like Exxon, you visit the State Department a lot. You get to know these people.
Well, you're an American company and you're an American citizen. Don't you want your government to know what you're doing? Don't you want that government's help and assistance when you're operating abroad? The answer is yes. I had a secret clearance when I was at Shell. That was so that I could deal with the issues that I would have to deal with. And I'm sure other chief executives of other American companies have similar clearance so that they can work with the U.S. government. The U.S. government is their enabler oftentimes. Sometimes we'll intervene on their behalf. And this is not an unfamiliar relationship between the U.S. government and top executives of U.S. companies.
That's why so many people really took note when Jim Baker, former Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, and Bob Gates, former Secretary of Defense, and everything else, about 9 different presidents, said this would be a great pick for you. He actually brought it up. They brought it up to Donald Trump. Here are some critics on both sides of the aisle, though. John, watch this.
I'm concerned about his relationship with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is a thug, a murderer, a KGB guy who only wants to restore the Russian Empire.
I am concerned about his relationship with Russia. We want to make sure that the Secretary of State is a person who represents America.
And Marco Rubio had similar sentiments. Your thoughts?
Well, of course, they may have concerns. That's why we have a vetting process. Let Rex come and explain and characterize and describe what he's done over the years. You don't make friends in the oil and gas business. You make associates. You make relationships. Those have to be functioning relationships in order to satisfy the needs of all parties. If ExxonMobil doesn't do a good deal, ExxonMobil is going to be very unhappy. If the Russians or the Equatorial Guineans or if any other country where someone's operating don't get a good deal, they're not going to be happy either.
Let me just bring up some things that have been chronicled about his past. Maybe you could shed some light on them. You mentioned that small country in Africa, Equatorial Guinea. Evidently, this corrupt family is only sustained by the oil deal that Exxon cut. A lot of the people are angry that Exxon cut that deal. He did that deal.
There are multiple deals in Equatorial Guinea among many different companies. I don't think a company that operates in Equatorial Guinea is responsible for the actions of the family, of the first family.
In Venezuela, he refused to deal with Hugo Chavez when he tried to nationalize Exxon. He actually took him to court, won, but they lost a lot of money. He says he learned from that.
Right. You had your assets being taken away. All the money that you have spent, it's being taken away by state control. Yes, you're going to fight something like that. ExxonMobil was not the only company that fought Chavez in Venezuela over the legal issues.
You always have said to me, we have no energy plan. We need someone with an energy plan. On the day of the election, you bet on Trump. You voted for Clinton in 2008. You wanted her to get the nomination, and you voted for Trump on day one. Do you sense he's got this plan?
Not yet. It takes time to make a plan. I teach such planning at 3 universities, and it takes time, it takes patience, and you've got to look beyond your term in office. If you're going to have an energy plan, it's got to cover decades, not just your term in office. And that's what we've been missing in this country ever since we've been vulnerable to foreign imports.
Yeah, all of the above is really none of the above. John Hoffmeister,
it's a slogan. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate your insight as we get to know more about the man who might be our next Secretary of State. Appreciate it. Coming up straight ahead, the same agency that targeted conservatives back in the news this morning. What we just learned about the IRS and their funny vacations. Plus, our friend Steve Amerson performed on the show yesterday. But what happened after the show? You're looking at it. It is hilarious. These guys, no wonder Ainsley wants karaoke at the Christmas party.
We'll say no, man, but you can do the job when you're in town. Here we go later on. Later on, we'll conspire as we dream by the fire. the job when you're in town. Here we go. Later on, we'll conspire.
And we had a big finish. It was really,
What do you think of that?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the After the Show it becomes a musical version of Fox and Friends.
So great would that
every
be?
day is a different song. I would not doubt. I mean, that's how good that was.
We were totally sober too. We were singing and dancing sober in the
Well,
morning.
you can't speak for Heather now. We're not sure what Heather.
It was a lot of fun. Why do we invite musical acts on when we could just do the numbers ourselves?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. At one point, does Steve and Steve dance and Heather and Ainsley dance? Because
No, that didn't happen. It didn't happen. Yeah, Heather and I were texting each other yesterday. You sent me the video yesterday afternoon. I was like, I don't want to watch it.
It was hilarious.
We
Anyway,
were having so much fun, celebrating Christmas.
and I'll tell you what, his Christmas album is just stunning.
Yeah.
He has that one song about the lamb that he sang yesterday, and I put it in my CD player. I do still have a CD player. I put that in last night and just played it over and over and over.
I have an 8-track tape player, and it's hard to find new stuff.
I have a Victrola. It's,
what is that?
I got there's so many scratches in my Johnny Mathis album.
Yes. Victrola? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, really old.
Actual
really old.
real records. All right.
Like Johnny and the Professor old.
Time now for some news, and it's back to that affluenza story.
Yes, Brian Kilmeade old. That's how old we're talking. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're off to a great day. A couple news headlines to bring you. Like father, like son. Do you remember the family that sparked national outrage? This dad said his son was too rich to know the difference between right and wrong. Well, the dad is now in trouble himself. A judge sentenced Fred Couch to probation for pretending to be a police officer during a fight with a neighbor. His son, Ethan Couch, known as the Affluenza teen, was 16 years old when he was slapped on the wrist for killing 4 people in a drunk driving crash back in 2013. $1 million homes, private car service, and lavish steak dinners. Guess who is enjoying that? Well, some folks at the IRS, and you are paying for it. There's a brand new report, it's out of the Senate, revealing 27 IRS workers racked up with more than $1.4 million in travel expenses in just 1 year alone. Some were given more than $7,000 to spend in 1 month. The IRS has not responded to that report, but we'll watch that one. Teachers in one school district will now be armed in the classroom. A school board outside of Colorado Springs, Colorado, saying that it's time to step up and keep kids safe. But that move is leaving parents divided.
It's a matter of being proactive. This is not about, we think our school is going to get attacked. This is not about this.
A lot of the staff, basically, I wouldn't trust with a gun. They have anger issues.
Well, the board says all staff members must have permits and must undergo training before being allowed to carry weapons in the school. And this is what hard work looks like. A photo of a Chick-fil-A worker wearing a sling and a neck brace in Indiana is now going viral. Yakeem Tyler had been in a serious car crash, but went back to work just days later. When a customer asked him, because you can see him right there, why wasn't he home recovering? Well, Yakeem had a really good reason. Listen.
He didn't want to let his team down by just calling in and not showing up. But he also wanted to use the money for Christmas presents and to be able to feed the homeless with it as well.
Wow, he wanted to be able to buy Christmas presents and feed the homeless. Well, that customer set up a GoFundMe page to help him. The goal started at $2,500, now stands at more than $20,000. So if you want to spread a little Christmas cheer, you can go to GoFundMe.com and search for fundraiser for Yakeem Tyler. And those are your headlines. What an incredible man. I know they'll do the right thing and help take
That's a
care
good
of him.
work ethic.
Yeah.
Jakeem Tyler, Jakeem, if you want to search for him.
In Indiana.
What a great guy.
Thank you, Heather.
All right, 22 minutes now before the top of the hour. It's one of the most highly anticipated movies of the year.
If the Empire has this kind of power, what chance do we have?
We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope.
And the latest installment in the Star Wars saga, Rogue One, hits theaters today.
Well, our star from the red carpet, Michael Tamara, joins us live with a preview of what it's about because you sat down with the director and the cast.
I did, and they told me what it was like to be a part of this iconic series.
Jin, whatever I do it to protect you. So you understand?
I understand.
What is it like as a director to step into these shoes of Star Wars? I mean, it's got to be somewhat daunting.
To me, they're masterpieces, and it's like to try and make a film that fits on your shelf next to the others is a high bar. But a strange thing happens because I grew up like a lot of kids my age who watch Star Wars every day, play with the toys. You know, on the first day you get on set and then suddenly you're stood next to a stormtrooper and there's an X-Wing, and you just feel like a kid and you feel like you've gone back home, and it's actually a really comfortable place to make a movie.
When you got the call that you made the cut, you're going to be part of the Star Wars universe, what was your first reaction?
I became a 6-year-old. I started crying, shouting, jumping, but then they said you cannot tell anyone.
I believe my character is the closest to the Force. The fact that he's the believer, the fact that he's blind, you have to feel it with his heart, and he gets to say the coolest line.
I fear nothing. All is as the Force wills it.
Are you with me?
All the way.
Yeah. Answering questions about Star Wars.
We're chatting about our weekends.
So you like it?
I saw about 28 minutes of it. It was incredible. People will see a lot of things they haven't seen before in these Star Wars movies, yet it has all the familiar elements that have people going back and back for more. I'm going to see it tomorrow night. I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah. As always, you can check out FoxNewsMagazine.com for more of my celebrity interviews, or follow me on Twitter and Instagram.
Well, that's a pretty picture.
Look at that.
You look
It's less cheesy than that other
cheesy.
Say cheesy.
All right, Michael, thank you very much.
Merry Christmas, Michael.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you. Thank
All
you.
right. Meanwhile, the president-elect has some cabinet positions, a couple of them left to fill. So when can we expect those announcements? This week? Kellyanne Conway here at the top of the hour.
And Hillary Clinton's camp says the Russians hacked her, but Judge Napolitano isn't buying it. He usually walks in the hall when I start reading his name, and sure enough, he's doing it. Now he's coming in the studio. He says we should forget Russia and investigate American intelligence agents. Here's the judge. I'm going to shake his hand.
We have some consumer headlines for you. You know that cheating website called Ashley Madison? Well, they're having to pay up after a massive after a massive security breach. The FTC settling for $1.6 million after customers were blackmailed with personal information. But get this, the cheaters, they're not going to see any of the cash. Dozens of civil cases are still pending.
Not enough.
Yeah, come and get it.
And you can now and you can now take Mario wherever you go. Yeah, good news, honey. I cheated, but we're rich.
I still be fascinated with this story.
Nintendo releasing Super Mario Run on iPhones and on iPads today. It is the character's first appearance on a smartphone. And now you can send a Harambe emoji. Apple's unveiling more than 100 new emojis. There's also a bald eagle, there's a fox, and there's some bacon.
Finally, bacon. All right. Thank you, emojis, and Apple. Bring it home with the bacon. Meanwhile, an Intel hearing on claims Russians hacked our election to help Donald Trump has been canceled as U.S. spy agencies refuse to show up on Capitol Hill. The allegations now taking a nastier turn. Watch.
The Republican nominee himself calling on Russia to hack his opponent. It might be an indication that he was obviously aware and concluded, based on whatever facts or sources he had available to him, that Russia was involved.
The White House suggesting Mr. Trump knew that Russia was involved, but our next guest claims they had nothing to do with it. Here to explain is Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
I hope that Josh Earnest was as much in jest in what he just said as Donald Trump was when he said during the campaign, do all the hacking you want. No one could have taken that
He said, hey, Russia, go
seriously.
find the 30,000 emails that she deleted.
Correct.
That's what he said.
Correct. Look, who had an incentive to prevent Mrs. Clinton from becoming president of the United States?
Bill?
Whose agents had their real identities and locations exposed by the reckless manner
US
in which
Intel?
there you go. Who had access to all of this material
US Intel.
without having to steal any codes? United States intelligence agents who did not want this woman in charge of the federal government and exposing more agents and resources and undercover assets in the Middle East to who they truly are and where they were.
What about the Daily Mail story, Judge, about how WikiLeaks wound up with the Hillary email? They say it wasn't a hacker. It was an inside leaker, somebody from inside somewhere who gave the guy the Hillary emails in a park and says, doesn't know whether or not Russia hacked. However, WikiLeaks got him in a park in Washington, D.C. from an insider.
Whatever you think of Julian Assange, Brian and I have gone back and forth as to whether he's a patriot or whether he's a goat. He revealed truthful information. No one's denying that the stuff that he revealed was real. That's his version of where this information came from, and now there's corroboration for it. Look, there's one spy agency, the NSA. It produces the raw data. The FBI looks at it, interprets it one way. The CIA looks at it, interprets it another way. The CIA may have a desire to make Mrs. Clinton look good or Donald Trump look bad.
Wait, politics?
They're right. Their boss is a Barack Obama appointee. The FBI may have a desire to say, you know, there's just not enough evidence here for us to point a finger at Moscow.
Joe, yes, Judge, I don't know why I called you Joe. That's kind of an interesting thing.
That is the least offensive thing you've ever called.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's scroll at the end of the show. So, Judge, if you look at what the New York Times published yesterday, was the chronicle of how this thing started. The president's known about this for since September of 2015. He chose to do absolutely nothing. In 2015, we didn't think Donald Trump was going to be leading the leading Republican, let alone be facing off with Hillary Clinton.
Look, there's a whole world out there that is below the fold, below the radar scope that we don't know about, which is the intelligence community. They have rivalries between them. They have ideological predilections. They have the same shortcomings as the rest of us. And intelligence, raw data, if it were here, it'd be difficult for the four of us to interpret it. But I can tell you this, two groups or two people looking at the same data can read the same thing and interpret it 180 degrees differently from each other. That's what happened here. So when Donald Trump says the Russians did not hack Mrs. Clinton, he's right. Somebody leaked from Mrs. Clinton's emails, but nobody went in there and altered her operational systems, which is what hacking does. If you want to change the outcome of an election, are you going to alter the candidates' operating systems, or are you going to alter the systems of the people who register the voters and count the votes?
So she has no one to blame but herself, because it was just leaked. Her emails were leaked.
She should have been blaming herself for a long time from the minute she decided to use the homebrew server.
2 weeks ago, the National Intelligence Director couldn't definitively say anything.
Judge, you got some good sources.
Pleasure. Thank you. Kill me. Stay away from that Madison stuff, would you?
Absolutely.
Madison Avenue is
and James Madison. All right, let me tell you this. President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet is filling up. So who will get the final few jobs? We're asking Kellyanne Conway. Will she answer? Stay tuned.
And Mr. Trump might soon make his most important pick yet. The first dog. Coming up next, meet the pup named Patton, who could be moving into the White House.
He's got the right name. Donald Trump loves Patton. Yes.
President Harry Truman once said, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. And it looks like our president-elect might be doing just that.
And joining us right now is the prospective first dog, Meet Patton, the Golden Doodle, and Lois Pope, who is his current owner and a longtime friend of the president-elect. Hey, Lois.
Hi.
Tell us the genesis of how Patton became a contender.
Well, you know, when I first heard that Trump won, I thought, okay, we've got to do a nationwide search for the perfect dog for President Trump, President-elect Trump. But, you know, I've changed my mind. I think that Barron needs the dog.
Because traditionally, the first family always has a dog. Now, you are a neighbor of Donald Trump. You live down in Manalapan, which is just a little south of Palm Beach. You have actually introduced this dog to Donald Trump, and he's shown... Tell us the picture about the picture that you showed him to show Barron.
I showed a picture of him on my iPhone on Thanksgiving. I was at the very next table to the president and Melania and Barron.
At Mar-a-Lago?
At Mar-a-Lago. And I showed him the picture, and he said, hero dog, because I mentioned that he comes from a long line of hero dogs who serve our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said, Melania, hero dog. And he said, you better not show him to Barron or he'll want him.
Okay.
So he said, go and show him to Barron. So I walked over to Barron, and he was playing with his computer games, and he looked up, and I said, look, Barron, and I showed him the picture of the dog, and he went from this to his computer game to like...
He looked up.
And what did he say?
He said nothing, but what he said on his face told me everything.
Do you think the Trump family's going to adopt?
I don't know. This is a very special dog.
You put the offer out there. Just curious if they said, okay, let's.
You know, I rescue dogs. I have 20 dogs that I've rescued. This dog is phenomenal. He's phenomenal. He's a golden doodle, but he's mostly a golden retriever, and he has a little bit of poodle mix. A golden retriever is the most loyal dog that you'll ever own. He's great around kids.
Sure.
And he'd be great with Barron. And he's super smart because poodles are noted for their intelligence.
And he's got a big backyard of the White House to run around. So
I can just see him romping around the White House.
How cool would that
and
be
I can
for
see
you?
him
Wouldn't that
romping
be
around the Mar-a-Lago, too.
Yeah.
I can.
All right. Well, we've got Kellyanne Conway up. We'll ask her about the transition team and their search for a dog.
Right.
Coming up next. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming up from Palm Beach County.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good job, Lois. Lois Pope, thanks. Meanwhile, 22 years ago today, first responders pulled off the impossible after a plane